Understanding Nonverbal Cues with Alexandrescu. I have come to know Alice over the last 6 months, and she is somebody who I can always go to when I have a question regarding something about the brain. She used to work as a mental health skills trainer, and she still works with a lot of children and human trafficking survivors to recover and heal from their scars and wounds. She is also an official trainer, affiliate trainer of the Blower Tactical System and the Sphere System. Alice in this episode talks about how we can do to improve in our verbal de-escalation and, quite frankly, verbal communications. And if you're watching this, you are somewhat good at it, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. You would have been in big trouble, right? But there's always a way. There's always a better way. And I learned so much from her, and I continue to learn from her. So she shares with you a lot of resources and something that you can implement right away, especially if you're a mom and have young children that you kind of get frustrated with. So enjoy her interview and learn from her. So the big question is this: why well-being conscious women just like us who want to live a healthy and happy life are constantly feeling vulnerable, like, what if I get attacked? And so many people who teach self-defense are tough men or martial artists who don't seem to understand what women really go through every day. How can we feel safer and be more confident in our personal safety? That is the question, and this channel gives you the answer. My name is Kinko Hamilton, and welcome to Rise Up Against Violence. Hi, ladies. Today I have a special guest. Her name is, sorry if I get it wrong, Alice Alexandrescu. Yes, Alice Alexandrescu. I'm just going to call her Alice because that's her first name. So I met Alice through the Garage Gym, which is under Tony Blower. He was one of the experts at the Women's Self-Defense Summit 2020. He's an awesome guy, very raw, very, he's considered as Anthony Bourdain in the self-defense industry. Anyhow, so I got to know Alice through Tony Blower's Garage Gym. And Alice is a personal defense readiness technician, also mental health skills trainer. And she's got a bunch of, all I can say is Alice is somebody who can think things so deeply that I can't even get there. So without further ado, Alice, welcome to the show.
Kinko, I'm honored to be here. I think the work that you're doing for women's self-defense of creating a nuanced dialogue is so needed, so amazing, and you're putting in so many hours, and it's making such a difference, and it's beautiful. And I'm honored to share space with you right now in this virtual world.
Oh, thank you, Alice. Yes, so great to have you. You have such an interesting background, and I have so-called mentally challenged or mentally disturbed family member, and I have to deal with a lot of different episodes of situations and crazy situations, right, throughout my life. That's not something, back in the days, I don't know, I mean, I'm quite old. Back in the days, the mental illness is very taboo. It still is kind of a little bit, but, there's no schizophrenia. Everybody was depressed. There's no different variation. There's no PTSD, none of that, right? No personality disorders and stuff like that. But now it's more developed and more understanding. But socially, we are very behind in acknowledging it and understanding it. Therefore, we are very, very behind primitive when it comes to dealing with those people, as well as protecting ourselves from those people. With having said that, Alice, you teach nonviolent communication, collaborative and proactive solutions. Could you share with us what exactly that is and how that help us?
Okay. So I'll start with nonviolent communication. Well, actually, I'll start with you don't look, I mean, you look forever young, just from that. Like, I don't know how old you are, but I assume that you were younger than me. But so people with behaviors that are challenging to understand, that might be diagnosed as ADHD, oppositional defiant disorder, adjustment disorder, autism, schizophrenia, all those are all related in one way. There's imbalances in the cranial nerves and in the brain. And right now, neurophysiology is just and neuropsychology are beginning to try to put words and understandings to people's behavior. So that's good on an academic realm. It's interesting, big words are being used, but the thing is like, what do I do when I have a family member? What do I do when I'm walking down the street and I encounter someone whose behaviors are atypical? What do I do? You know, and trying to bridge the understandings that the scientific method is calling out, and then like practical application. This is where nonviolent communication, which is a way of speaking and thinking about speaking toward other people, developed by psychologist Marshall Rosenberg, come into play, and collaborative and proactive solutions, which is a method developed by Dr. Ross Green, who I did advanced trainings with from a mental health job. And how they're related to self-defense is that there's different strata, different gradients and atmospheres of where we have to defend our personal boundaries. And it gets far more complicated when the people are within our home or people are in our community that we have to deal with every single day. How do we maintain and protect and communicate our boundaries? Because it might not get physical right away. And I'll start with nonviolent communication. It's a way to be compassionate to yourself, to protect yourself, and to be compassionate to another. And the way that it works, I'm trying to condense, it's such a massive different way of speaking, but it's based on I statements. And there's 4 main ways of thinking about an interaction with another human being. There's observable behaviors between the 2 people, what we can observe. There's feelings. There's the feelings that I have, and there's the feelings that other person has. There's needs. There's needs that I have, and there's needs that that other person has. And then there's a request between the 2 of us. So in a violent self-defense situation, because this is the easiest way, the bad guy has feelings. It doesn't matter what is causing it. It's just, there's feelings, needs, what they can observe, and then what they're trying to request, to force meeting their needs, body, property, life. So for some reason, they're targeting innocent people to try to meet a need that they don't have. Now, it doesn't, like in that moment, like we just always have to remember, because this is something that I've dealt with. It's like when someone crosses a physical boundary or an emotional boundary, the saying goes, perpetrators were victims in their life at some point in their life. They learned to be a perpetrator because they were a victim, and it's a vicious cycle. However, thinking about that in a moment where there's a boundary crossing, like, oh, this person was probably XYZ, grew up in a tough neighborhood, wasn't loved as a kid, etc. That's not an appropriate time to like bring up. It takes away from our situational awareness and stuff like that. But I have needs as well. My needs are to feel safe. My feelings when someone threatens my boundary, tries to violate my boundary, my feelings are fear, confusion, anger, shame. These pop up, right? Like, and then the observable things, this is the situational and self-awareness, my heart rate, the environment we're in, improvised weapons laying around, what that bad guy's body posture is, what are they doing, what are they saying. So observations, needs, feelings, requests. My request in the language of self-defense would be either assertively speaking and saying, hey buddy, I don't want any trouble. Or if they are beyond that and they come into the close quarters range and try to attack me, then my request goes into speaking with my body, right? I say, no, I don't want, like using body, literally the body with these movements. That's why when I have friends who say, Alice, why do you practice such violent things? I'm like, no, this is, I practice nonviolence. These moves, it's a way to firmly say no when someone doesn't use their words. When they try to use their body, I communicate in a way to say, yeah,
with your body, because they're
right.
Because obviously somebody's coming at you with their, I don't know, 250 pounds guy is coming at you, clearly saying back off or stop is not working. We're talking about that antisocial violence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you're gonna have to use a body and your human weapon anyways. But
yeah.
that's not non-violent communication, right?
Oh, not yet.
Okay.
No, that's just the nonviolent communication is, what do I do, like everything I possibly can do to not to prevent the physical issue. So there's a lot of different physical, like when we say nonviolent communication, Marshall Rosenberg was like, it doesn't mean not to defend yourself. It means to use your ability to speak compassionately and to have your own boundaries. Be true to yourself, be kind to myself. If someone crosses my boundary, like say a boss takes an idea that I had and I present it to him, and he takes the idea and presents it as himself, and he gets the promotion and the accolades, and then I am bypassed. So that is a professional and a financial boundary violation. What do I do then? And it's like the motion. So the observation is, when I shared this exciting idea with my boss, he took it and then he presented it as his own without giving me credit. And what do I do? So in nonviolent communication, instead of being like repressing, in compromising my integrity by repressing and just saying, I don't want to stir trouble. I don't want to get fired. I don't want to blah, blah, blah. So that's compromising by repressing those emotions. And then incompetently expressing it would be the opposite of that. It would be, F you, how dare you do this to me? Oh my gosh, like direct to him or to friends, like, I can't believe that he did this, da, da, da. So it's not resolving the issue. The need is, I need to be recognized and I need to feel like my skill sets are valued in my workplace.
It's 12 hours.
Oop, that was my computer. I need to feel, so identifying the needs in the situation. So we identify the feelings. I felt sad and angry, and then identify the needs. I need to feel recognized and valued and competent in my skills. So and those are the things that build the request, how I'm going to communicate to the boss. And then that's kind of like the formula of the way I think about it. Like, hey, John, when I presented that idea for the quarterly report, and then you didn't give me credit to the board of directors, that really made me feel sad and unrecognized by you, and our relationship's important to me. And then the request would be like, can you give me credit when credit's due? You see, so that's nonviolent communication, because if I was to suppress that, then that would just, that feeling of a drain, and every time I'd be triggered every time I see him, that disempowerment. If I would like express it incompetently and complain to my friends, my friends would be subject to this venting that might not ever end. Like maybe vent once or twice, but if the problem's not resolved, then it's re-traumatization, and it trains the brain to feel victimized, and then that cycle continues. And then this is the thing. We make choices, and that goes on. If we cannot, like, nonviolent communication is a way to identify our needs, our feelings, our boundaries, and assert them with our voice in a kind way to the inside and to the outside. And however John the boss responds is not like, he might be like, oh, whoa, oh, I'm sorry. It was such a good idea. And then like I was thinking about you the whole time. And it was just such a, it'll give him an opportunity to respond. So, or on the other hand, it'd be like, it could show his true colors, and he could say like, you know what, that's just tough shit. And then that's when you log it in a harassment report, and then time, date, details, submit it to HR, and then keep track of that. So both of these ways, like one way or another, it's facing the fear directly. And because if we're suppressing, compromising by suppressing or incompetently expressing to other people, or maybe attacking him, saying, you're an asshole, I hate you. Both of those things are making us emotionally off balance. And then that, like, we could be distracted, and it takes away from our situational awareness, and it builds up over time. We're walking to our car, we're really huffing and puffing. And that's what the bad guys that we don't know are looking for. They're looking for people who are targets that look easy. Like, oh, this person looks flustered. This person looks, their posture, stuff like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So Alice, that's a great point. So feelings, observable elements, needs, and requests. Yeah. So identify those feelings and needs and boundaries, and address that. And make a request in constructive way, in the kind way, compassionate way to yourself and others. And what comes after that, you're just going to have to document that. That's a great point. And what about for the mentally challenged or mentally disturbed person or family members? Would that work for them?
Okay, good question. So everything always depends on the scenario. This is where CPS, collaborative and proactive solutions, will be appropriate. So it's always important in nonviolent communication, there's a list of universal human feelings and needs. So it doesn't matter like what level of compromised mental states anybody is, whether they're 2 years old or 100 years old, whether they're the celebrity or a garbage man or whatever, it doesn't matter. Like everybody has a way to be happy, sad, mad. Like these are universal. Like we have chemical states, fear, giving names and understanding those in us, and then looking at our behaviorally challenging, that's the way the terms we use, like our behaviorally challenging family.
I love that term. Apologize.
Yeah. There's the vernacular, and it's changing. So just trying to understand. It's like the people who challenge us. It's like, and it's using the word like that. It's like challenging behaviors makes it something that's solvable, and it's like I'm challenged, where we can figure something out, being creative. So the nonviolent communication has those list of universal needs and feelings. So that some of the needs would be safety, security, shelter, creativity, like expression. And everybody on the planet does it in different ways. Like what makes me feel safe might not make another person feel safe. Somebody might feel safe if they have 5 dogs. Somebody might feel safe if they have certain type of training. Someone might feel safe if whatever, or creativity. Like maybe I can be creative. These are my friends works here, but their way to feel creative is doing these swiggly drawings. My way to feel creative is coming up with cool workouts, the, you know, self-protection workouts with my different balls and hoppers here and stuff. So creativity, like meeting a need and having a feeling, just understanding everybody has that. So then when we go to our behaviorally challenging individual, whatever age range, and we got to understand, like a way to build compassion, I call it a compassion cushion, is to say, when a person has a challenging behavior, it's because A, they don't have the skills, like they don't have the problem solving skills and the self-awareness skills to get a need met or to identify a feeling. So it's this, the collaborative and proactive solutions model kind of builds an empathy kind of method to be like, okay, where does the behaviors occur? Let's track it and let's look at the environmental situations that might be triggering this individual. For example, some children with challenging behaviors in kindergarten classes are highly sensitive to flickering LED, like CFL lights overhead, because if there's a certain frequency that we can't see, but it's so irritating. So it's a sensory integration issue, not a behavioral issue. So if there's a kid literally being tortured by this sensory stimulation, and then they're in the kind of an irritated state, and then somebody dares take the red crayon from them and they slap them in the face, then that, and all the teacher sees is that slap in the face. They don't see the more nuanced things that led up to it. So it's upstream thinking. This method is to think about like, okay, this is how I have this person in my life. And this is like family, dealing with family or friends or somebody. And it could be on a spectrum of behavioral difficulty, because they don't need to have a diagnosed anger issue to be violently angry. They don't need to have a diagnosed sadness issue to be self-dangerously sad. It's the diagnosis is putting labels on observations that professionals see. But when they're in our day-to-day lives, we have to just kind of become, it's called stress detectives. It's like, if I have an expectation for my 7-year-old, is it a reasonable expectation for their age? Does the kid's skill or the person's skill meet that expectation? And if the skills can't meet the expectation, that's when we have to get into understanding why they don't have those skills yet. It's a very compassionate process with, it doesn't focus on punishment, it focuses on skill building. And I definitely would recommend the book Raising Human Beings by Dr. Ross Greene, that really goes into the details of this. Because I could go on probably for another 4 hours and barely skim the surface, because it's specific to each scenario, each kid, each person.
Right. I'm sure that, you know, personal safety journey or even behaviorally challenging individuals, quite frankly, I think we all are challenged in behavior at some level, right?
Yes.
I could totally think of like 3 things in my head, like how challenged I am. But going back to my question though, Alice, so those identifying feelings, needs, boundaries, and making requests, would that be an appropriate or first step to deal with a mentally challenged family member?
Good question. Okay.
Or would you recommend something else? Again,
yeah,
everyone's different, right? So
yeah, it would definitely be like, first, before even interacting with the individual, going in with yourself and thinking like, am I in a executive state where I can maintain my compassion and not get angry or emotional or sad because they are? So that would be the first question. Can I hold space for this individual before I encounter them. And checking in with yourself. And it's like, okay, this is how self-awareness, this is how I feel when I'm around this person. And just being aware of that. And then thinking about feeling, what do I need from this person? And then if they're in the middle of a behavior, what do I need? I need to feel safe, and I don't want to, and it's a scary situation. And then it's like, it depends on the scenario, because behaviors have patterns and triggers are detectable when you start like observing closer and closer. Depending on the situation will be how to approach the individual. So if it's like somebody that lives in your house every day, and then you know that the second I take out a toothbrush, there's a violent behavior, then that it's like going to the ABC thing that we talked about offline a little bit. So
what's the ABC?
Okay.
Plan ABC method, right?
Okay, yeah. So part of CPS, there's plan A, plan B, plan C. So plan A is usually where the person who's responsible, the caregiver, a safety boundary being broken here. So I have to intervene with my authority. Like, you have to do this. Now, in our society, plan A is overused so much. Punishment, reward and punishment models look at how can I force or bribe someone to do something I want. And there's certain places, again, plan A is good for safety. If there's a kid who's running into the street because they're mad, screen time, no more screen time. And then the kid escalates, starts running out into the street and then doing a hold, and they're kicking and screaming, that's a plan A situation, because you don't want them to die from getting run over in the car. So plan B this is where the skills are built. It's like, here's the expectation. And then if the person can't meet the expectation, I ask myself, is this expectation too much for this person, or can we work on it? And then that's when we start to investigate. Hey, Sally, I noticed every time you have such a hard, sad time when we do brushing our teeth in the morning. And I'm like, what's up with that? I'm wondering how you're feeling about it. And so I'm not saying you got to brush your teeth or your teeth are going to rot out. You see the difference of the energy there? It's like, and how you got to brush your teeth can trigger an escalation, and then the kid can explode. And then you'll think, oh, I got a kid who's just out of control. It's like, but the adult, the energy coming from the caregiver, the bigger person, the person who's in charge of their safety, if that energy is off, the kid will pick up on that, or a developmentally delayed individual will pick up on that energy, that if there's anger, if there's frustration, if there's irritation, all that stuff. So just like in a self-defense scenario, the perpetrator will pick up on fear, on confusion, on stalling, on all that stuff. So it's these body cues and a sense, in our body, pressure, that it's a very, feelings are sensational. So plan B is drilling. We have a drilling step where we gently ask curious questions, and that's just to be like a curious mindset, a growth and curious mindset. So plan B is like, I know that a human being has neuroplastic brain that 2/3 of it can be adjusted just by thinking and repetition in ways of thinking. That's the science of it. So having that belief and understanding that we can solve problems, and we have throughout the ages. And then the curiosity comes from like, well, how do we get there? How do we, and and it's like, I'm the adult who is in my own kind of emotional state and I'm frustrated. I can't be there myself. I have to model that. So this is like, I got to do my breathing. I got to eat according, not inflame my body or my mind. I have to get the appropriate amount of sleep. One of the therapists I used to work with, she's like, being a parent is a hard job, and being a kid is a harder job. It's like, it's because everybody's doing what works for them with the skills they have. So plan B, it's drilling the kid and then trying to have them open up and trust you, unlike you actually want to know. But if they're already defensive, or you've fought about this problem over and over and over again, created that pattern, it'll take some time. Plan C is this expectation I have, like you have to brush your teeth perfectly for 5 minutes, top and bottom. Is that can I be flexible? So plan C is flexibility with that expectation. What are my top expectations for this? Clear, consistent expectations, day in and day out. And then what are the ones that are the top, like the most important? And then this comes into like the kids will feel comfortable with some consistency, feeling that like, I know I can count on this type of reaction from my parent. Like, I know I can. So getting the person to feel safe. So a lot of my clients with challenging behaviors, like building the rapport would take a long time. I was a stranger. And the way that I did that was by being a big, safe person and using the language that kids know best, which is play. That is their first, there's something called play therapy that one of the therapists I worked with did in order to kind of understand that's a form of communication and a form of connection that kids actually have. It's not just products and toys you buy at stores. It's like something we see in nature. Okay, and then so plan A is adult force. Plan B is the working together to develop those skills, and it takes the time and the talking and the exchange. And plan C is letting go of that expectation to prioritize learning skills that they might need before that. So.
Fabulous. Well, nonviolent communication is something that we can use every day and we should be using every day. And the brushing teeth story, it resonates me very much because I have 6 and 12 years old boys, and 12 years he brushes, but it's very quick, right? I'm like, yo, dude, do it again. And the 6 years old, he's like, I did it. No, you didn't, brush your teeth. Like how much like money I'm spending on you, like $3,000 last time you got a cavity, brush your teeth, certainly change that tone and the conversation and follow that.
I brought that up because that was a huge part of my mental health skills training job, is to go into the homes where the behaviors occur. So there can be like backup, like I was backup for the parents. And then I could be like, I could see things from a different perspective, because when you're the parent, it is every day. And you have to keep them alive. You have to feed them. You have to do all that mom stuff. But I had clients where I would wake up at 6 o'clock, get over their house at 6:15, and then we'd go through the brushing routine and see what the issues around that were. And a lot of the times there was other things that, like sleep issues, or that it hurt their gums for some reason. It was uncomfortable. Like just feeling, the whole point is to try to get the kids to feel like ownership of the decision, and to feel why, you know, to feel that intrinsic motivation, like I'm brushing my teeth, I'm doing something good for myself. But if you tell them brushing your teeth is something that's good for you, and then, it's just like figuring out the website livesinthebalance.org is the Raising Human Beings Collaborative and Proactive Solutions website. It's got tons of free material that can really help people, like with these simple things, because the simple things are just the way that I see it. It's like, if you have something that bothers you this much, but then if it builds up, then it adds up and it adds up, and it's distracting from doing like the things that make you feel alive. And that's in nonviolent communication. It's like, how can we communicate to make us feel alive and connected, make life wonderful? And then that's, it's framing it that way is it's beautiful, because that's kind of what it's so everybody wants and needs, but we don't say it out loud for some reason. So like making it, normalizing saying it out loud, using communication to get my express my feelings and have my needs met, and then giving other people opportunities to make requests so I can feel good answering those requests and having these strong bonds. And that's helpful for self-defense, because the more we feel these higher vibration, like connections, then we'll have a stronger survival instinct when we actually need it, in the event, the less likely event of more acute violent, like surprise attacks and stuff.
Awesome, Alice. So we have to kind of wrap up our interview now. Is there words of wisdom or last thing that you'd like to share with the audience?
If we think about each other and our own brains, there's this thing called the Truine brain theory. So we have the 3 brains: our survival brain, the reptile brain, our emotional brain, which is the midbrain, and then our executive state brain, which is the newest part of our brain. And each one of them serve a purpose. But if we understand which brain that we're in, that can really help build compassion for ourselves and others to make wiser choices. Because the first brain, like when we feel scared or mad, the blood literally just starts getting drained to other places. So the place that we remember what's important to us, who we're connected to, who am I as an individual, what are my, like, what's the greater societal things that are important to me, like that gets put secondary to the emotional and the survival brain. The survival brain is the reason we might see, for example, women in domestic violence many years, is because they're in that emotional brain most of the time, in their survival brain, because they're so afraid of being disconnected. This emotional brain prioritizes, I have to be part of a group in order to survive. Like getting abused is slightly better than being alone, because I have to have this connection. And then, so like sometimes we might stick into relationships or not speak up for ourselves because we're in this emotional brain without access to the problem solving part. And then the survival brain is when we're just completely escalated and we're either fight or flight or freeze. And that's when we get into these states of like extreme depression or extreme aggression or stuff like that. And the whole point is to just be able to understand which brain I'm in, the wise mind, the emotional mind, and then the survival mind. So, and all of them are important. And it just being able to understand where we're at and where somebody else might be. It's like, oh, that person said something harmful to me. They might be in their emotional brain. Like they're feeling threatened or whatever. And then that can maybe keep me in my thinking brain just enough to make a decision that's healthy for both of us. So to walk away, always think like true kindness is when you can be kind to yourself and the other person at the same time. Being kind to somebody else hurts you in some kind of way, then that's not true kindness. It's half. So it's just kind of like these meaningful connections. And then working on this, the mental and the emotional health stuff will inform the physical self-defense stuff tremendously. And I watched your other interviews and you've touched on that kind of stuff. So it's like pretty amazing that everybody's kind of like bonding on this whole human self-protection kind of thing.
Yes, just like Tony Blauer says, you know, how you think affects how you feel, and how you feel affects how you think, and both affect how you move, right?
Yes.
Awesome, Alice. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to chatting with you soon again.
Ditto, Kinko. You're amazing. I love you. You're wonderful. Keep up the good,
all right, thank you, Alice.
Good work.
Would you like to get the advices from the world's top self-defense experts? If so, go in and get your pass from www.womensselfdefensesummit.com.